The Dominion had ruled the outer sectors for centuries, its fleets precise, its systems unyielding. Every star within its reach was catalogued, controlled, mapped down to the molecular structure of its planets. Civilization beyond the edge of known space was rare, fragile, and swiftly brought to heel. Then humanity arrived. They did not ask for permission. They did not send emissaries. They crossed the Dominion border in vessels that were patched, scarred, and unmistakably alive. Not machines perfect in symmetry, not vessels engineered for intimidation, but ships that bore history in every dent, every burn, every improvised repair. Sensors flared in the Dominion command networks. Readings contradicted themselves. Velocity, mass, energy output, all exceeded maximum calculated limits. Intelligence analysts reeled. Fleet commanders recalculated, only to find their models useless. Every equation collapsed when applied to humanity. The first human ships slowed near a system marked as a military hub. Shields of the Dominion flared into readiness, energy weapons aligned, fleets converged. Humanity did not flinch. They did not panic. They did not attempt negotiation. They simply moved with calm purpose, scanning, cataloging, observing. Dominion minds struggled to comprehend. Their technology could predict weather, orchestrate planetary defenses, even simulate economies across decades. But it could not simulate humanity. Each move defied expectation, each pattern contradicted logic. Their presence was not an incursion. It was a lesson. Imperial fleets attempted to encircle them. Weapons primed to annihilate. Humanity adjusted. Not with firepower, not with overwhelming numbers, but with timing, intuition, and adaptation. Gaps that seemed impossible to navigate became pathways. Systems that should have collapsed remained stable. The humans passed through the gauntlet with precision born of experience, instinct, and determination. As they advanced, they did not claim worlds. They did not destroy them. Instead, they left traces of order where chaos had reigned, repaired what was broken, mapped what was forgotten, and left evidence that survival was not granted, it was earned. Reports came from Dominion citizens and commanders alike. Humans had survived attacks that should have ended them. They had outmaneuvered fleets that dwarfed their own. And they did so with a humanity that was both defiant and deliberate. Not reckless, not arrogant, but unshakably resolute. Every attempt to predict their next move failed. Every effort to corner them resulted in new openings, new opportunities, new lessons in adaptability. Dominion strategy shifted from aggression to observation, from attack to comprehension. Humanity was teaching them, not by force, but by example, through contested space. Past abandoned stations, around worlds teetering on the brink of collapse, the human fleet moved. They salvaged, repaired, and, when necessary, defended, not for gain, but because survival demanded mastery of circumstance, not dominion over it. The Dominion realized, too late, that this was not a conventional threat. Humanity did not operate by conquest or fear. They operated by resilience, intelligence, and a moral clarity that no machine, fleet, or empire had anticipated. They endured because they must, and because endurance itself was a weapon more powerful than any cannon. As the humans crossed the last border, leaving Dominion fleets to watch, analyze, and fail to predict. One truth settled across the Empire: these beings were not a species to be subdued, negotiated with, or underestimated. They were a force of nature, and some forces cannot be contained. Humanity simply moves forward. The Dominion scrambled every sensor and deployed every fleet it could muster, yet humanity's ships moved through the outer sectors like shadows unbound by rules. Each vessel bore evidence of countless journeys, patchwork hulls, scorch marks from close calls, insignias painted over and over, each telling a story the Dominion could not read. Attempts to intercept were futile. Fleet formations bent and twisted to anticipate human maneuvers, but every calculation failed. Humans did not evade. They flowed through obstacles, threading gaps that no one believed navigable, exploiting the limitations of Dominion strategy without breaking a stride. command centers reported instruments spinning beyond capacity, algorithms collapsing under the weight of unpredictability. Humanity moved with instinct and precision, a combination the Dominion's cold logic could not emulate. Every fleet advance, every maneuver, felt purposeful yet unbound, a defiance that was not reckless, but inevitable. When a human vessel slowed near a heavily fortified station, Dominion weapons primed for engagement, the ship did not fire. It did not retreat. It hovered, scanning, analyzing. As if considering not just its survival, but the intelligence of those watching it. The pause unsettled even the most veteran commanders, historians, and tacticians within the Dominion speculated about the species they were witnessing. Not conquerors, not invaders, but something different, adaptable, resourceful, and unshakably calm in the face of overwhelming opposition. Humanity's presence alone challenged the Empire's assumptions, forcing every mind to reconsider what power truly meant. Small vessels detached to observe, and even then, the humans outpaced and outmaneuvered them effortlessly. Their ships seemed to anticipate every shift, every trap, every restriction imposed by Imperial control. Dominion fleets realized the truth slowly, reluctantly. Humans did not rely on overwhelming force or superior technology. They relied on ingenuity, adaptability, and the unyielding will to endure. As reports streamed in from every sector, one unifying realization emerged. Humanity's crossing into Dominion space was not an incursion. It was a statement. A demonstration that survival, intelligence, and moral resolve could surpass empires, fleets, and rules alike, and the humans moved onward, leaving the Dominion to wonder how a species so small could challenge an empire so vast, and survive. The Dominion attempted a coordinated blockade, dispatching fleets in complex formations designed to trap, delay, and intimidate. Every course plotted, every maneuver calculated down to the last second. Yet humanity did not confront them with weapons or defiance. They moved with a rhythm that seemed chaotic, yet every action served purpose. They exploited gaps the Dominion did not know existed, turned restrictions into advantages, and passed through forces that should have overwhelmed them. Sensors registered impossible readings. Fleet commanders reported instruments looping endlessly, unable to predict position or trajectory. Dominion algorithms recalculated billions of possible outcomes, only to find each one invalid. Humanity had rewritten the rules simply by moving through space as if they owned nothing but themselves and the will to endure. When a fleet attempted to shadow a human vessel near a populated system, the humans slowed, not to fight, not to hide, but to observe. Dominion crews felt an unsettling clarity in their presence. The humans were aware of every sensor, every calculation, every projection, yet they acted without aggression. Their power lay in confidence, adaptability, and patience, not in guns or shields. The historians within Dominion Command pieced together fragments from old records, legends whispered about the survivors from the edge of dark space, beings who thrived where others perished. Each account aligned with what they now saw. Humanity did not submit, did not retreat, did not wait for permission. They endured, and they adapted in ways that no empire had considered. As human ships continued deeper into Dominion space, fleets began to falter, not from combat, but from understanding. The humans were not opponents to be crushed, they were an inevitability to be reckoned with. Dominion minds grasped, with growing unease, that survival, not conquest, defined humanity's strength, and in the silence left behind as the vessels moved on, one truth crystallized across the empire: a species that did not flinch in the face of overwhelming power could never be contained, and could never be predicted. The Dominion's highest councils convened, their chambers humming with anxious energy as reports streamed in from every sector. Analysts, tacticians, and historians alike attempted to reconcile what they had witnessed. Human vessels did not fit within any known framework. Their movement violated every principle of navigation, every assumption of strategy, every calculation of survival. The very fabric of Dominion thought trembled under the weight of unpredictability. Outside the chambers, the human fleet continued its silent march. They traversed starfields where no path should exist, slipping through asteroid belts, radiation zones, and gravitational anomalies with ease. Every movement was deliberate, yet unorthodox, sometimes flowing in ways that made sensors misread speed and mass, sometimes pausing in positions that defied expectation. As though space itself bent to their understanding of it. Dominion fleets shadowed, attempted encirclements, deployed traps of energy and gravity, but the humans moved through each with the poise of a river flowing around stones. Reports from planetary systems along their path were even more disturbing. Automated defenses that had never failed before triggered alarms but could not register the human vessels as targets. Civilian population sensed fleeting disturbances, flickers of light, shifts in gravity, brief phenomena that could not be explained. Some called it a visitation. Others called it a warning. Dominion officials called it an embarrassment. The historians dug deeper. They scoured archives, pulling forward the oldest records, myths of survivors from Deathworlds, tales of species that endured annihilation, sagas of beings that thrived on chaos and uncertainty. Every fragment, every whispered legend seemed to converge on a single truth. The humans the Dominion now faced had evolved not in stability or empire, but in the crucible of adversity. Their ships, scarred and patched, told the story of survival more eloquently than any archive ever could. As the fleet neared a densely populated cluster of systems, the Dominion mustered its most sophisticated response. Thousands of warships formed a layered net, weapon systems ready to obliterate anything attempting passage. Algorithms ran trillions of possible trajectories. Commanders prepared to make the first strike in centuries. Humanity did not hesitate. The vessels weaved through the net effortlessly, exploiting every error, anticipating every overcorrection, and turning the Dominion's own strategies into pathways forward. No shots were fired. No shields broken. No lives lost. Yet the effect was catastrophic. The Dominion's confidence shattered. Their doctrine, their history, their very understanding of control unraveled under the reality that some things could not be contained. The human fleet slowed once more near the edge of the cluster, hovering deliberately. Dominion observers noted subtle manipulations. Gravitational distortions minimized damage to inhabited worlds. Energy fluctuations redistributed without harm, patterns of movement that seemed to teach rather than threaten. Humanity was demonstrating mastery, not of war, not of technology, but of survival, adaptation, and moral clarity. The council convened again, voices trembling with the weight of recognition. The humans had crossed into Dominion space, not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as a force of nature. They survived where others failed, endured where others collapsed, and moved through the galaxy with an authority that needed no fleet to enforce it. One historian whispered to the council, almost in awe, "They are teaching us not how to fight, but how to endure." And as the vessels accelerated beyond the Dominion's reach, leaving behind fleets paralyzed by comprehension, the Empire understood the most unsettling truth of all: humanity's defiance was not temporary, and its presence would reshape the galaxy forever. Some beings simply cannot be contained. The human fleet advanced deeper into Dominion space, moving with a confidence that unsettled even the oldest commanders. Every system they passed, every anomaly they traversed, was recorded, analyzed, and then outpaced. The Dominion had prepared for war, for incursion, for disaster, but they had not prepared for endurance that ignored expectation, intelligence that anticipated limitation, and presence that demanded recognition without aggression. Entire fleets followed the trail, attempting to constrain the humans with formations calculated to perfection. Yet each maneuver revealed a flaw in Dominion logic. The humans did not merely navigate the patterns, they redefined them. Gravity wells, asteroid belts, and magnetic storms became tools, not obstacles. Fleets intended to encircle were threaded through like ribbons of light, every attempted blockade rendered irrelevant by anticipation born of experience and instinct. Systems along the way were left untouched, yet each felt the subtle influence of the humans' passage. Communications fluctuated, sensors reported ghost readings, and automated defenses briefly faltered without harm. Civilian populations described fleeting impressions: a ship that seemed alive, moving with intention, observing without interference. Dominion analysts called it impossible. Historians called it extraordinary. Commanders called it infuriating. In one of the Empire's oldest and most fortified sectors, a cluster of research stations attempted to scan the fleet in detail. Instruments overloaded, quantum sensors spiraled into error, and even artificial intelligences tasked with observation reported anomalous readings they could not classify. The humans had crossed not only space but comprehension itself. Every effort to anticipate them collapsed under the weight of adaptability. The human fleet paused near a strategic system. Not to attack, not to negotiate, but to observe. Dominion forces watched in disbelief as they repaired infrastructure damaged by prior conflicts, stabilized failing orbital stations, and rerouted hazards with a precision that seemed both scientific and instinctive. Humanity moved as if the galaxy were an intricate puzzle to be understood, not a conquest to be claimed. Commanders attempted to intimidate, deploying overwhelming firepower in a display meant to force engagement. The humans adjusted. Not with retaliation, but with seamless avoidance, turning threats into pathways and traps into lessons. Fleets that had once symbolized imperial might now appeared cumbersome, inflexible. And, in contrast, fragile. Historians pieced together the implications. These were not conquerors. These were survivors perfected by adversity, beings for whom unpredictability was mastery, chaos was opportunity, and endurance was a principle stronger than any weapon. Humanity's crossing was no longer a mission, it was a demonstration, a revelation of the potential of life that refused to yield. As the vessels accelerated, leaving the system behind, the Dominion realized the full scale of what had occurred. They had not been challenged. They had been taught. Every fleet, every algorithm, every doctrine now seemed insufficient. Humanity had crossed into Dominion space and, without a single act of aggression, had rewritten the rules of presence, of survival, and of authority. Imperial mind struggled with the concept. Power was no longer about dominance. It was about adaptability, foresight, and the quiet strength of unyielding will. Humanity's path was not only a journey through space, it was a lesson across centuries, a narrative written in motion, survival, and moral clarity. And as the human fleet moved on, beyond pursuit, beyond prediction, beyond expectation, the Dominion felt an unsettling truth settle across its ranks. The galaxy was not theirs to command, and some forces cannot be contained. Endurance is the ultimate power. Humanity did not pause. The fleet surged deeper into Dominion territory. A stream of patched, scarred, and unyielding vessels moving with a certainty that unsettled the most experienced commanders. Every sector they traversed bore witness to impossible maneuvers. Fleets designed to contain them became irrelevant, weapon systems misfired or failed to track, and calculations that had never been questioned unraveled in real time. The humans moved not by force, but by comprehension, intuition, and an unshakable will to endure. As they entered the inner systems, Dominion intelligence attempted to catalog, predict, and simulate their trajectory. Each effort collapsed. The humans did not follow patterns, they created them. Where fleets attempted to form barriers, the vessels twisted, slipped, and flowed through gaps that did not exist. Where sensors attempted to detect anomalies, readings contradicted themselves, leaving entire command networks paralyzed with uncertainty. Observers noted the smallest details, subtle gravitational adjustments that prevented planetary damage, precise energy redistributions that avoided unnecessary destruction, micromaneuvers that preserved both the fleet and surrounding infrastructure. Every movement was a demonstration that survival was more than endurance, it was intelligence applied with moral clarity. Dominion fleets could strike, could block, could overwhelm, yet every action proved insufficient against unpredictability executed with mastery. In one critical system, long abandoned and war-torn, the human vessels paused briefly. They repaired stations, stabilized failing orbital networks, and rerouted hazards threatening civilian populations. They did not occupy. They did not conquer. They endured and adapted. Every act was deliberate, every motion a lesson in understanding rather than domination. The Dominion, with all its centuries of calculated control, could only watch and learn, forced to acknowledge the principle that survival might be a greater form of power than empire. Attempts at confrontation were futile. Fleets that should have commanded the humans found themselves outpaced and outmaneuvered. Calculations that promised certainty instead revealed gaps. The humans did not need superiority in numbers or firepower, they moved with an inevitability born from experience, ingenuity, and the refusal to yield. Commanders convened emergency councils across multiple sectors. Historians were consulted. Philosophers and tacticians struggled to define what had occurred. Humanity's passage had revealed something deeper than resilience, a species capable of navigating chaos, enduring adversity, and imposing neither destruction nor submission, yet changing everything it touched. The Dominion realized, painfully, that they had observed a force that could never be predicted, never contained, and never dismissed, as the fleet finally accelerated toward uncharted space. Leaving Dominion territory behind, every commander, scholar, and citizen aware of the event understood the magnitude of what had happened. Humanity had entered without fear, without demand, without aggression. They had endured where others would have fallen. They had survived where others would have perished. And in doing so, they had rewritten the galaxy's understanding of power, authority, and presence. Some fleets would chase. Some historians would debate. Some empires would plan. But none could replicate. None could contain. Humanity simply endures, and that is unstoppable.